Hey, this is Jack at BCO Farm. Today I'm going to do another walkthrough of the food forest and swale project to see how things are developing. The last month or so I've been spreading a lot of wood chips. They're the latest piles. Now we've gotten 4 truckloads of free wood chips from local landscaping companies. I've basically tried to fill the entire area between the 2 swales with chips. There's a fig tree. We actually got a fig in April. Today's actually May 4th, but that's been on there a while. This peach tree has got a lot of peaches on it. The limbs are weighed down. Quite a few of them have started dropping. I think that's because it's nature taking care of the abundance. I'm going to do a little research and find out if I need to be thinning any more to make sure the peaches that are left are good, but you can see there are a lot of them on it. This is all a learning experience. This tree is really bigger than we want in the swale. It was here before the swale was built, or dug, and we actually dug the swale around it and then added all these new trees. So we're going to prune this peach tree over a 2 or 3 year period to be smaller so it doesn't dominate. All these other trees, we've used the Dave Wilson multi-planting approach with multiple trees close together. And over time we'll prune them so they don't get growing to each other too much. We'll focus on keeping the limbs that grow perpendicular to the swale and prune out the ones that grow towards each other. And we're going to not let all these get too big. We had deer visit us this week, and they ate quite a bit of the comfrey. You can see there's comfrey plants everywhere around these trees. But that's actually a good thing because they hardly touched any of the young fruit trees. They ate a few leaves off these cherry trees, but for the most part they just went after the comfrey. So it served its purpose, and it'll keep coming back. And I'm throwing everything at the swale. I've got so much diversity. I've got some lettuce there. There's a sweet potato plant, which the deer love, and they didn't even touch that. We've got wildflowers. There are blackberries, raspberries in there. There's even some grapes over there. Most of these new fruit trees came from Bob Wells' nursery in Texas, and they were planted just over a year ago, and they're already getting peaches this year. There are quite a few peaches on this tree. That's surprising to me, but maybe that's just how well the swale concept works. I think the last video I did, this was all grass between the swales. Now I'm filling all of it in with wood chips. This is a red raspberry that has spread all over the place, and that's fine with me. We'll work on controlling it later, but for now I want these things to propagate themselves. Over here we have a bunch of the trees I got last month that were really inexpensive. About 80 trees for $297. A lot of them are small, but they're designed. There's red buds, pawpaws, mazzard cherries. There's some varieties of apples growing on their own roots, which we could use later for rootstock to graft on what we want. That's a nice blackberry plant. That's my chair for when I get tired. I've left this area grassy where the spillway is because when the upper swale fills, I don't want the water to all absorb into the chips. I want to make sure it has a nice path to work its way down to the lower swale. I'll keep an eye on that as time goes by. I might fill it in later. I might make the path smaller just so it has a nice little narrow path to work its way down quickly. So you can see we got a lot of the new smaller fruit trees in the wood chips. I've also sowed some seeds for clover, some melons. I've heard that squash and melons like to grow in compost, so we'll see how they might do in wood chips. This is the phase 2 part of the first swale. Right here we've got the only tree I lost this year, and that was my fault. I just let it get too dry. But the rest of these are doing pretty well. The part of the swale that's closer to our house, we're going to start slowly developing into more of a kitchen garden. We've got apples, pears, plums in here, berries. I think this is a raspberry right here, but it's already developing berries. You got comfrey that I split last fall. We put comfrey root all along here, and they're starting to come up nicely. There's one, there's another, they're all over the place. I love comfrey. Especially if I do get stung by a fire ant or a bee, I go straight to a comfrey plant and just squeeze this juice right out of the leaf onto the bite. You got, we've put some herbs close to the house. There's some oregano. That's sage. That tall one there is a cilantro. That's another berry. We have some sweet potatoes along here. I use the white PVC pipes as a really inexpensive stake to mark the things I need to be careful with. There's a tomato. And I know rabbits and deer will eat a lot of this, but the more we throw at it, the more that'll survive, and we're willing to share. This is an asparagus bed I planted. I've now got 3 asparagus beds around different areas of the property. We love asparagus. Over on the high side of the swale, I'm planting honey locust trees. I haven't actually planted all of them yet. I'm growing them out in pots, and this time of year they seem to actually be growing better in pots, so I might keep them in pots until next fall and transplant them in the fall. Over here we have 2 elderberry plants. That's a fig tree. There's a plum. This plum's actually been here a while, but it just didn't get a lot of water, so this will be its first year next to the swale. We'll see if it does better like some of the other trees I've seen. There's another fig. There's an apple. I'm slowly tagging these trees with better tags, so when I walk around I can learn to recognize them quicker. There's a red bud. Now if we go down here, this is the lower swale. That tree on the end is about a 5-year-old pecan tree. And then you can see all of the new fruit trees we put in. These all got planted in February, and they're doing great. The lower swale hasn't filled in a while, but it filled so many times during the winter that the trees still seem to be doing pretty well. The black pipe is a drip line I'm going to put in, because it does get hot and dry here in the summer, and I'm not willing to risk losing all these trees. That's part of an experiment, so I hope eventually we don't need to water at all, but to be safe, I'm going to add drip lines. You can see all along here, there's still some holes I've dug where the honey Locusts are going to go, but haven't put them in yet. This was an existing peach tree that just happened to fall right where the swale was, which in the future I'll do some more detailed blog posts about how the swales were designed and laid out, and I just didn't want to take the tree, so we sort of built a little moat around it to share the water. And this is the end of the lower swale. There's a radish. You can see there are more berries below the trees. And I started planting pawpaws, chestnuts, persimmons below the swale. I'll probably slowly, as I get more free wood chips, fill even this area in. But for now it's open enough that I can mow it and collect the clippings for the chickens. There's a bean. Berries everywhere, lettuces. We get enough shade down in this part that the lettuces are still not bolting. There's a pawpaw with one of my laminated labels. This helps me to walk around and see exactly what they are. Some of these trees still have the original label. But I'm thinking about maybe coming up with something that uses color-coded labels. Kind of an idea I got from watching the Permaculture Orchard video from Stefan Subkowiak, where I could color code by the time of year they produce. So it would be easier to look at the trees and just by the color of the tag, know which ones you need to focus the most attention on to make sure you don't miss ripe fruit. Over here you can see comfrey starting to come up nicely, and a lot of the berries. More comfrey. That's another berry, another. There's even some lettuce hiding out over here. Got a lot fewer weeds in the lower swale because I got more wood chips on it at the beginning of the season. The upper swale has a lot of grass in it that I'm working on, and the plan there is to start probably cutting the grass down with weed eaters and smother the grass with wood chips and start favoring the understory plants we want. Eventually, I expect the swale will be mostly, under the trees will be comfrey. I want to add daikon radish, Jerusalem artichoke, and of course all of the berries, and start using the wood chips to suppress the grasses. I know you're not supposed to let grass get too big around trees, so there's an example of one that I need to cut out of there and start disadvantaging it. But the trees don't look too bad. There's a couple more peach trees. So that's about it for today. It's a beautiful day, 62 degrees and sunny on May 4th, and that's a fantastic day to work outside in Georgia. So I'm going to get back to it. And for now, that's all from BCO Farm.